everyone, I looked into Alfie Kohn and his theories on student-directed learning and democratic classrooms. So to start, Alfie Kohn was formerly a teacher. He taught at both the high school and college level, but currently he speaks and writes about human behavior, education, and parenting. And he has published many books and articles on these topics, but one of his popular books relating to education and classroom management is titled Beyond Discipline: From Compliance to Community. It was originally published in 1996 and again in 2006. And the ideas that he puts forth relating to education are in line with Vygotsky and Piaget. He's very outspoken and critical of the commonly used behaviorism strategies. He believes that most teachers rely too heavily on extrinsic motivation and really stresses and urges teachers to focus more on intrinsic motivation and values. Kohn is also critical of many aspects of the current education system. He argues against the use of competition and those external motivational factors because his argument is that students aren't truly learning, they're just seeking out those factors. He also stresses and is critical of standardized testing and homework and believes that standards should be kept at a minimum. Kohn's classroom management theories are in line with a constructivist approach. He argues the need for a constructivist classroom that has student-centered learning, and he also places an emphasis on engaging lessons and activities. Kohn argues that these should really provide students the opportunity to construct their own learning and build on their knowledge. So one quote that I found that kind of really sums up his theories on student-directed learning and democratic classrooms is social psychology has found the more you reward people for doing something, the more they tend to lose interest in whatever they had to do to get the reward. So in this quote, he's saying rewards and consequences are not effective because they're not motivating students to learn. And he's also arguing that grades and praise reduce those intrinsic motivations and those students' desire to learn. His argument is that this is a form of manipulation, that as teachers we are doing things to students instead of doing things with students. So to avoid this, Kohn instead suggests teachers focus on the 3 C's: content, community, and choice, and that by focusing on these 3 things, classroom management will increase and you're really working to prevent misbehavior so you won't have to use discipline and you won't have to use rewards and consequences. So to begin with content, Kohn's theory stresses the importance of asking the question, has the child been given something to do worth learning? He argues that students may be off task because they're really just not given something worthwhile to do. So an example that he provided in his writings is that if you're asking students to endlessly complete fill-in-the-blank worksheets, then of course you're probably going to have to bribe those students with a reward. Endless worksheets and mindless activities are not engaging, and when students aren't engaged, they will go more off task or portray behavior that is viewed as not acceptable. So he stresses having engaging content reduces the chance of misbehavior in the first place. So his idea surrounding learning communities. So he states in his quote, if children feel safe, they can take risks, ask questions, make mistakes, learn to trust, share their feelings, and grow. I included this because it kind of explains and just sums up his ideas of a learning community. His ideal classroom emphasizes cooperation. Students should have many opportunities to participate in cooperative learning with their peers. And he also argues that teachers must work towards developing a sense of community. That is not something that just happens. It really needs to be worked on and developed with your students. And the teacher can do this by showing students that they respect them and by creating an environment where all students feel safe and welcomed. Kohn also stresses the importance of students feeling like they're able to ask for help, and the environment should be safe and comforting enough so students come to really care about each other, where they learn the skills to be kind, where they learn the skills to share instead of being manipulated to do so. So they want to be kind and want to share with their peers because of an internal motivations, not because of an extrinsic reward or consequence that they might face. Kohn's democratic and student-directed learning theory emphasizes the importance of these classroom meetings. And he suggests that classroom meetings provide social and ethical benefits, foster intellectual development, and increase students' motivation to be leaders within the classroom. And again, really emphasizes the classroom community. So Kohn urges teachers to use these meetings as a place for sharing, deciding, planning, and reflecting. So when you're in a meeting sharing with students, you just talk about your weekend, have students share what happened, what they did over the weekend. And again, the teacher can also share what they did over their weekend with their students. But it should also be stressed that Kohn says it is up to the students to share. They should not be forced to share. And use the meetings on deciding. Kohn said the teacher could work with students to decide on desk arrangements, what goes on the walls, really just making them a part of the decisions and also making them a part of planning as well. And classroom meetings can also be used as a time when the teachers and the students reflect. They can reflect on what type of place the classroom should be. So the last C that Kohn focuses on for avoiding rewards and consequences and just increasing your overall classroom management is choice. Students should be provided with choice in their academic, social, and behavioral decisions. And Kohn stresses the importance that choice has on students' well-being, behavior and values, academic achievement, and it even has benefits for teachers and on intrinsic values. So students benefit from feeling a sense of control in their lives, so that benefits their well-being. Having that autonomy and just feeling like they do have a say in their everyday lives really does provide them with benefits. And the effects on behavior and values is connected to the quote that I put here by Kohn, where he says, "Children learn how to make good decisions by making decisions, not by following directions." So he's arguing that if we want students to be responsible for their behavior, then they first have to be given responsibility. We can't always, as teachers, tell them exactly what we expect and how they should behave. We have to give them time to figure it out and, take responsibility for their own behavior. But to take responsibility, they need that responsibility. It also makes teachers, job a little bit more exciting and interesting because they're actively collaborating with their students. And there's also increases in academic achievement and intrinsic values. The 4 areas Kohn says that students can make academic decisions on include what, how well, and why they learn. And he stresses the importance of that students should have control and responsibility in their learning, while the teacher really is there just to act as a facilitator rather than really telling students all the time what they need to do or what they are going to do and how they are going to do it. He also argues that a strict curriculum and homework are counterintuitive to students' needs. Current research supports the ideas that Kohn presents in his student-directed learning and democratic classrooms. So in 2010, Patel et al. Conducted a study where students were randomly assigned to receive choice in their homework. So they either got a choice between homework options or they were assigned an option for homework. So they either had choice or they didn't have choice. And the results indicated that when students were offered a choice of homework, they reported higher intrinsic motivation to do the homework, felt more competent regarding the homework, and performed better on the unit test compared to when they were not provided with choice. And the results also showed that having choices increased homework completion rates compared to when there were no choices given. And I put this study in there because I think it's really important. Kohn really is critical of homework, but it's not always practical or possible for every teacher to not assign homework. So this is just a more realistic approach that teachers can take, instead of completely getting rid of homework, which, might not be feasible. They can just provide choice, and that choice, even if it's between what questions they're going to answer or what worksheet they might complete, really does provide them with benefits. Another study that I found where Cohn's theories are implemented was conducted by Grant and Davis in 2012. And they conducted this study in a first grade classroom where they implemented classroom meetings. They really just wanted to see what the benefits of these classroom meetings were. So they agree that morning or class meetings support students' development of effective social skills and positive relationships in the classroom. And the results show that these benefits could include improved conflict solving strategies, positive interactions among students, and a more peaceful classroom. The students become better communicators and develop kinder demeanors to children and adults. And these meetings create a greater sense of community in the classroom and help build mutual respect and improved relationships among the students and the teacher. So, again, these are very practical strategies that the teacher could implement into their room. Cohn's theories are very critical of many things that teachers don't have a say over. So this is just a more effective and practical way that all teachers could work on implementing the 3 C's. So in conclusion, Kohn follows constructivist beliefs. He really argues that problems in the classroom are not always the fault of the students who do not listen. He says that as teachers, we need to take a closer look at what the students were asked to do or learn. And this is where content, community, and choice come in. If you're giving students engaging content and you really strive to build a classroom community where everyone is respected and safe, and you provide students with choice, his argument is that you will not need rewards, bribes, and punishments because students are genuinely internally motivated to do what they were asked to do. He argues that we want more than compliance in the classroom, that when students are complying through rewards and consequences, they're not given the opportunity to develop social emotional skills. They're just complying to get the reward or avoid the consequence. And the teacher should always include students in creating a classroom community. It really is a team and based activity. It's not something the teacher can just take on and manage and do by themselves. And as I mentioned, it's not necessarily possible for teachers to get rid of homework and standardized tests, but as the studies in the previous slide showed, just offering choice in homework produces benefits, and really just building that safe, comforting community is beneficial to the students. These are my references. I thank you for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks again.